Where them Catholics at? Yeah. Yo, where them Catholics at? Man, what's the matter with these bishops?
Welcome back, everybody. It's the Catholic Convert Show. Now, if you noticed, the banner didn't show up. And I made the banner, but the banner didn't show up simply because Ed never knows what we're going to talk about until he sees the banner pop up for the intro of the show. So I decided I would throw him for a loop here, even though he's going to find out in like 2 seconds. But we're back, and it's a wonderful Thursday, I believe. Labor Day kind of threw me off, and nice and gray and rainy out here in northwestern South Carolina. Ed is, of course, enjoying his balmy extended summer there in Jersey. So Ed, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. Yeah, man, it has been a spectacular week here in Jersey weather-wise, and hopefully,
I'm sorry to hear that.
there's nothing like it. That we call it. They call it the shoulder season, or like down on the shore, they call it locals summer, because with all the tourists,
everybody goes home except for the
Yeah.
the tourists all go home. The locals are the only ones there.
Yeah, so we can all hang out, and and in the shore towns, the traffic lights go back to blinking red and yellow, instead of yellow, red, and green, and it's good times.
Now, where you live, is it like a small town, or is it like the burbs, or what?
Now where I officially live now is a township of probably about 75 or 80,000 people. It's like the fourth largest municipality, but right down the road where I grew up in good old Yardville, as we mentioned, I think population's around 4,000, and hasn't really changed ever. It's got a great history too. There's a place, the Yardville Hotel, which is there, which is was a place where George Washington stopped and spent a night on his way up to New York City to be sworn in as the first president. And also, if you remember Wild Bill Cody, he had his Wild West show back in the late 1800s and such.
Wasn't Annie Oakley a part of that?
Annie Oakley was a part of that, and they spent like a week or so in Yardville. I was a young whippersnapper at the time, but they spent a week here doing their show, and people, it was in the local papers. Annie Oakley was in the parking lot of the Yardville Hotel for a few days practicing her because she was she'd do all the wild trick shots with her gun, and so the folks of Yardville got a little taste of what she could do. So yeah, there's some fun history to the little town I grew up in, and it's still right down the street. I've never lived more than I'd say I've always been within about 10 miles of where I grew up. It's kind of boring, but I'll take it.
No, I mean, I get it. I like the history down here too in South Carolina. So I'm like, everybody knows the movie The Patriot with Mel Gibson.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
So the battle at the end where he impales Tavington's horse with the flag. Well, obviously Tavington was based off of Bannister Tarleton, and the final battle that took place there where the militia fired 2 shots and then retreated, it was the Battle of Cowpens. And I grew up with the Cowpens National Battlefield as my backyard. Like if I walked out of my back porch and crossed the pasture that usually had cows and horses in it, you're right there on battlefield property. And Mel Gibson, his character was pretty much modeled and inspired by Francis Marion, the Swamp Fox.
Yeah.
And so just about everywhere I drive through down here, there's these little markers about Francis Marion or the where the dragoons camped as they were coming through on their way. So it's all cool here. But
yeah,
my favorite place to live and my least favorite place to live was New Mexico.
Yeah, you've mentioned that before.
Yeah, I loved it there, but I hated it there. I hated it there because the job market sucked and it was hard to earn a living without being on the road or just gone all the time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, unless you want to work in the service industry, you know, restaurants, things like that.
Yeah.
Everything else that actually paid decent, you got to move around.
Yeah.
But the town that we lived in, like 1,200 people.
Mm-hmm.
You got a 75-mile drive down I-25 just to go to Walmart.
That
I
gets
wish
old
I
pretty
was
fast.
joking. It got old pretty quick. We ended up moving to the slightly larger town. When I say slightly larger, we went from a town of 1,200 to, I want to say 40,000 people.
Yeah.
And so it's still technically a small town, but it's right there next to New Mexico State University, and that's where Walmart was, right there in that town. And so we actually had an apartment right across the street from the university at one point. Cool. But it wasn't cool because we were next door to a frat house, and these dudes setting stuff on fire.
Yeah.
They were cool dudes, though. If I ever needed help carrying something heavy, they were always
there.
Around. Oh yeah, it was easy.
But lifting kegs will do that for you.
Yeah. But no, I liked it out there because Pat Garrett was buried in that town.
Oh wow.
And we would drive around, check out the stuff we'd drive all the way up to Lincoln, you know, see the Tunstall store where John Tunstall's buried, Doc and right around the whole Regulators territory for Billy the Kid and all that other. It was fun stuff out there.
That's cool. It's interesting because when I think, like, I watch a lot. I love history, and there's a couple of people I follow that have YouTube channels that live in various parts of the country and do a lot of historical traveling around. And I think it's so wild where, you know, there's such neat history out in the Midwest and in the West, but they'll talk about things that took place in the late 1800s, the early 1900s and stuff. And then like out in the East Coast, you're thinking early 1900s, that's like yesterday, you know, because the history out here goes back so much further, you know. And in fact, there was more Revolutionary War battles and skirmishes in New Jersey than anywhere else. We have about 296 that are listed, which is pretty phenomenal. So, you know, there's you talk about those markers that are alongside roadways and stuff like that. They're all over the place here. And one of the places I love going to cemeteries. I don't know. I know that's kind of a weird thing, but I'm one of those folks who loves to go to old historic cemeteries and just kind of looking around and seeing who's there and stuff. And there's one not too far from me here. It's down Old Yellow Meeting House Road. And there's still a very tiny little church that's been sitting there since the late 1600s. And actually, they have a service there only once a year. It's on the Sunday of Thanksgiving weekend. But in that cemetery, among others, a lot of Revolutionary War guys, but Abraham Lincoln's great-great-grandparents are buried there, which I think is kind of cool. You think Lincoln was a long time ago, and his great-great-grandparents are buried down the road here? That's kind of neat.
Yeah, you know, it's one of the things I liked living here was that the history was richer and deeper. Yeah. Living out there, the history was kind of more obscure. It was cultural history. It was regional history. Like my wife's family lived in New Mexico before New Mexico became a state. I believe it became a state in like 1906.
Somewhere around there.
Or something like that. And just there's this attraction to the desert that I still have. You know, I would love going on, like, you know, just either rides. When there was this one cattle ranch out there that would literally open up once a year for a cattle drive and a gathering. And it was like, if you don't have a horse, we have horses, but we don't have enough people to help with the cattle drive. You just show up and they'd kit you out with all the tack you needed. And you better hope you brought your own chaps, because if you didn't, you were going to be sore after 3 days. Yeah. But, you know, it just the openness, the barrenness. And everything in the desert is either trying to sting you, bite you, or poison you, cut
Yeah.
you, or just flat out kill you. It's like a miniature version of Australia, right? Everything has thorns, everything has venom, and everything has teeth.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, you got flowering trees covered in thorns. This sucks. And the heat sucks. But it's a dry heat. I don't care. It's hot.
Hot as that. I've always wanted to go to
hot.
New Mexico because it looks. I mean, the scenery there looks almost otherworldly. I mean, some of the stuff that you would see, especially at sunrise, sunset, it just it looks amazing. Been out west, but not to New Mexico, so I gotta check that out.
Yeah. But then when I came back here, everything was, green. I've got trees and creeks and ponds and lakes,
Yeah.
and I've got a river like less than 100 yards from my house.
Mm-hmm.
And everything is lush and fresh. And it's like, oh man, I'm so glad I'm out of that place. But then while I'm here, I find myself going, damn, I kind of miss the desert a little bit. Not to live in, but I just want to go back just for that vibe, because there's a whole vibe to Southwest culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I started thinking about kind of how that parallels into my personality. I don't know about you, but I have a tendency to be my own worst enemy. I have a tendency to self-sabotage. Like if things are going great and I'm like, I don't know, on easy street, things are flowing smooth, I get bored. And I'm like, I need to build something else. I need something else that's going to, break the monotony of what's going on. But then I'll get pissed off and I'll get stressed out when I create that struggle for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes any sense. It kind of sounds like I'm a schizo-psychotic.
No, because I think we all have that kind of like restlessness that develops in us when things are going well, and not necessarily that your intention is to sabotage yourself, but you'll go in a direction that that will be the end result. You know what I mean? So it's not what you said.
Yeah.
It's not that you set out to screw things. It's not like you said, "Boy, I'm bored. Let's really screw things royally." You don't. That's not your intention, but it winds up there sometimes because sometimes things going well and leaving well enough alone is the way to go.
Yeah, well, it's like when we had John Kramer on the show, the Lego church project guy.
Yeah.
It takes him 2 months to build these incredibly detailed church models out of Legos. He's got like 25 grand worth of Legos in each one. And he said that the roughest part was that unless he wants to keep spending 25 grand, each year on just Legos, after he's completed this year's design, he takes it all apart. And it takes him like 3 days working like 6 to 8 hours each to disassemble the whole thing. Yeah. It's like enjoying that because he said he hates it.
Yeah.
Right. But it's almost as crazy as enjoying, man, I just built this, I think he said it weighs like 85 pounds. 85 pounds of Legos is a lot of Legos. Right.
Oh, yeah.
So you build this 85-pound Lego cathedral, and then you're like, you know what I want to do now? I want to tear it apart just to do it again.
Yeah.
It's kind of sadistic, right?
A little
or
bit.
masochistic. I don't know which one enjoys hurting themselves. Masochist. That's it.
That's the ones.
But it's almost like that. And I get bored and I'm like, I should just go and build something, run it over with a truck, and then have to fix the truck and the thing that I built. And I don't know why I feel that way. I just get restless. I get restless. I get bored when things are smooth and going great. And
well,
it got me thinking about something else that you've mentioned before.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say, I could offer you some advice from St. Augustine. Your heart will remain restless till it rests in you, meaning God. But,
right.
But I don't think that's the direction you were going.
That's not the direction I was going, but you do make a good point. I'm not restless searching for truth. I've never felt more at peace and more at home, as a Catholic.
Good.
but I'm talking more about I write for a living. I bang my fingers on keys all day. I sometimes it feels just as banal as if I was working in finance doing spreadsheets or PowerPoints all day. It sucks sometimes. I get bored. I'm like, I'm not going to write. Oh, I've got a deadline due in 20 days. I'm not going to work on it for the next 10 just so I have to rush for the final 10 just to add that pressure to my life. And I wonder how many times as the faithful, we don't realize we're sabotaging ourselves. Like you've talked about it before where, I didn't feel like praying that morning. So I didn't. And that one day turned into 2. And I realized it at day 3. Ah, crap. I haven't prayed in 3 days. Ah, well, I don't have time to do it right now to break that streak. Just because, well, I don't even know what the just because is. There's no logical reason to it. You just like, I'm already going down this path. I might as well see where it all goes. And the next thing you know, you've gone 3 months without praying except for being in mass.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think we do the same thing in our lives too. You know, things are going great with your wife. Things are going great with your kids. Things are going great with your work. What should I do? I should finance a boat and make everything suck. Because you know what they say about boats. I don't care what Anthony, what's his name, Abate or Abadi says. You know, he's going out there on his boat all the time. Everything keeps breaking on his boat for some reason. I'm starting to think it's an operator issue. But there's only 2 good days on a boat, or 2 good days of owning a boat. It's when the day you buy it and the day you sell it. Everything else is just a money sink, right?
Yeah.
You love your new boat, and then, oh man, I'm so glad I got rid of that damn thing. It's almost like owning horses. It's great when you buy them, and then it's great when you finally don't have to feed them anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I like when I go out on a boat a few times during the summer. I got my license and everything, but I don't own a boat. I rent it. 'Cause it's just a massive headache.
Yeah. And I haven't personally encountered this yet, but I've seen it in others and I've heard about it from others where they enter into that, I guess you could call it a winter of their faith, where they just kind of start questioning things. It's like that dark hour where they don't even know if, am I really as faithful and as big of a believer as I've been saying I am? Because they get that one little inkling of doubt and then it starts spreading like monkeypox in Florida. You know, it's weird to me that I haven't had that yet as a Catholic, as much as I have it about everything else in my life. Oh, look, everything's going great. You know what I should do? I should go cut the entire yard with a pair of scissors just because it's going to suck and I'll have something to complain about. I guess this is more of like a philosophical topic. When it comes to self-sabotage, why do you think that we get bored when things are good? Why do you think if Christ is the ultimate hope and everybody's like praying and hoping for Christendom to return and we need a fully Catholic and faithful government that, will pass laws that abide by the magisterium. And, it's the big pipe dream. We want this huge, beautiful Christian culture that permeates everything around us. But part of me thinks that we wouldn't be happy with that. Part of me thinks we'd get bored because we'd have nothing to complain about.
True.
And I see people all the time with those little 4 square memes. It's like, this is all a man wants. And it's got like, he's lifting weights, he's eating steak, he's got his kids and wife with him, and then he's in church.
Mm-hmm.
That's not true, though. There's a hidden 5th picture. We want chaos. We want conflict. You know, we want to struggle.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. Like I said, it's not even so much of a question. It's more of an observation that I've had. Like, we crave conflict.
And yeah, I mean, is it the conflict, or is it the excitement that comes along with conflict? You know what I mean? It's like, because if you think about it, I mean, do you want to be at odds with your kids or with your wife or with your neighbors and stuff? Probably not. But sometimes, just to inject some life, some excitement into the situation, you'll create conflict with any of the above. And then I think afterwards, I think you look back and you're kind of disappointed in yourself, or you're like, well, why the heck did I do that? But I think that it's kind of like what was back in high school. There's always the girls who are they always go for the bad boy. The they don't want to date the
Must have
straight
been
A.
why I never had any in high school. I was a good boy.
You were a good. I was a good boy, but you know what I mean. And as the good boy, you'd sit there and say, "Why? Like, I'm straight A's. I'm accepted into like 5 of the best schools on the East Coast."
Oh, you mean that kind of good boy? I was not.
No, you're not that guy. But anyway, but staying out of trouble, not getting detentions, not doing this, that, someone who's probably got a good head on their shoulders, probably going to get a good job, making decent money, could provide for you forever, and yet, the prettiest girl in the class is dating a kid who rarely shows up for school. He comes in on his motorcycle, and when he does show up, and he's a bully. He's picking on the good kids and stuff like that, and that's who she's falling in love with or whatever. It's because there's that excitement that comes along with, not necessarily that she wants to spend her life with this rebel, without a clue, but the fact that there's an excitement that comes along with being with that guy and spending time with him. And I think I don't think we completely lose that as we get to be older. We're still looking for excitement in life, and if you're at home, the wife's good, the kids are good, you're going to church on Sundays, job is paying for the bills and things like that, you're able to do some things, spend a little money and things like that, and at some point you're sitting there and you're thinking, yeah, I got a great life, but it's boring. How do I juice it up a little bit? How do I and we make really bad choices as far as how we're going to bring that excitement into it. Because you can actually bring excitement into your life with good choices, but somehow we don't always see it that way.
But
Right?
see, I think it's more for guys, though. I think it's just men that really struggle with this the most. Yeah, sure. There's plenty of women out there. They want some adventure in their lives. They want some excitement and spontaneity. But I think for guys, we just like solving problems. And if there's no problems to solve, we will create them.
Sure.
Right? And it just makes me think about how fallen our nature as human beings we are, because there's absolutely zero problems. Everything is perfectly glorious and perfectly good when you finally get to heaven and you're face to face with God. And at that point, you'll never get bored of everything being perfect. You'll never get bored of everything being just completely problem free.
Yeah.
You're going to have this perpetual excitement of basking in the presence of God.
Yeah.
But here, man, we are so screwed up. We make problems where there are none, just so we have a problem to fix. And it's this, like I said, it's just weird philosophical statement observation thing that I went down the rabbit hole with this morning when I was, working on some music and stuff with my son.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it makes sense that we're so far gone as human beings compared to what we could be had it not been for the fall of man with Adam and Eve. Like, we crave chaos, and you see people all the
Yeah.
time. It's easy to fall into it, especially on social media. Oh man,
Sure.
you're doing great. Your content's all positive, everything's great, and then you see one thing that pisses you off, and you comment on it. And the way the algorithm works is if you interact with one thing that makes you mad,
Mhm.
the algorithm assumes you want to see more things that make you mad. And you get addicted to it so fast. And the next thing you know, you're looking at your feed, you're going, I don't even follow these people. Why is everything on my feed rage bait? It's because you dove into that. You wanted these problems. You wanted something to be angry about. You wanted something to, I don't know, fight up against. And now that's all you got. And then you have to make an intentional decision, like what I do. If I accidentally do that, because it's easy, I do it almost every week. I have to go back, go down my follower list, find the people that are never posting that kind of stuff, and I just start liking all of their content. And then I switch back over and refresh my feed, and all that rage bait stuff's gone. But when one of them fall into it, I comment on it, and the cycle restarts itself.
Yeah. Yeah. I ran into that whole thing just this past weekend when on Facebook I made a very innocuous comment about my favorite college football team. Just like something like, hey, it looks like it's going to be a great year because they had a good win in their first game. And a friend of mine who I wouldn't expect this from, he goes on this rant about why it's not going to be a good year. And how dare you assume just on the results of one game that it's going to be a good year. And here's the 10 reasons why your team really actually sucks, you know? And it just infuriated me. And said that I'm going back at him. Your comments are ridiculous. It is going to be a great year. And here's why it's going to be. And then he comes back at me. Well, I appreciate your excitement about your team, but no, I reiterate, here's the reason why your team is going to suck it up by the end of the season. And then at some point, I realized I was actually enjoying going back at him. Finding some enjoyment in being angry about his comments, and like thinking up, what digs I could put in on him, until finally, it kept going on and on until I said, you know what, this is crazy. This is nuts. What am I doing here? Why am I taking pleasure in this really angry back and forth, this very unchristian back and forth? And so I just went back and I deleted his initial comment, and I deleted all the responses that I had made to his comments. And I just left the original post up there, which basically just said, hey, great win. It looks like it's going to be a great year, and I've been thinking.
Is your favorite team Notre Dame by any chance?
No, I don't like Notre Dame at all. His favorite team is Notre Dame. Well, no, and I'll tell you why. Because it used to be because I was always bummed out. No, boo. I was always bummed out that they got a sweetheart deal with, what is it, ABC or whatever, as far as televising all their games, and also how they refuse to actually join a conference, but they want to get some of the benefits of being, they were loosely affiliated with the Big East until that folded. Now they're loosely affiliated.
You sound
with
like a hater right now.
No, but listen, but I wish that they were a Catholic university that actually behaved like a Catholic university. So that's a topic for another day. But and I get it.
It's the same as hoping that there's any Catholics out there that actually behave like Catholics.
Well, exactly.
All the time.
I know, and again,
because we all suck.
We do all suck, but some suck more than others, and and so I get it. It's just like my whole issue with all the Jesuit universities out there, like Gonzaga and Boston College and University of Scranton, and we could go on and on, but but we'll stop there. But no, Notre Dame, I'm not a big fan. Listen, if they're in a bowl game and they're playing Miami or something like that, yeah, I'm going to root for them because they're Catholic. But But no, it's
I mean,
it's
we
not.
beat Texas A&M, so
Yeah, that was a wild game. Saw that. I was
looks like
watching
it
that
should
one.
be. Looks like it should be an okay season.
For Notre Dame, I think they're going to have a fabulous season.
I
No
always
one
watched the Navy game simply because one of my best friends in the world was a Navy guy, and so as soon as they lose, I'm like, ugh. And I was in the Army. I don't give a crap if the Knights win. I don't. I just want the Navy to lose, just so I can rub it in my friend's face. But see, that's it. It's another thing we're looking for. We're looking for something that is kind of a conflict. I mean, it's the bread and circuses thing. That's why we watch sports. That's why we watch boxing matches and UFC fights and any other sporting event, because it's a contest. It's a battle of wills and skill, and sometimes looking for that boxer's chance in the underdog.
Yeah.
We always have this tendency to root for the underdog too, right?
Sure.
And I think that's maybe why we continue to make ourselves the underdog. I mean, look, I think the ultimate underdog was Christ.
Sure.
Right? One guy walking through the region of Judea, flipping tables, getting into the face of the Pharisees, standing up against the Roman Empire, getting crucified for it. He's the underdog. But then he came back and won. I mean, straight up, got the interception at the end of the game, Rudy style. It's the ultimate underdog. And maybe that's why, as Catholics, we sometimes seek out more problems to fight against, because there's such a profound level of peace that we find in the Mass, in the Adoration Chapel, in prayer, that I'm not saying people don't have legitimate problems, but I wonder if our human nature of needing something to battle against is somehow connected with, you find a lot of Catholics always complaining about something or looking for things to be complaining about. Because listen, I'm going to be honest with you. When that whole thing, like, let's talk about, we talked about it when it first happened on this show, the whole Vigano being excommunicated thing.
Yeah.
Before that happened, I had never heard of Vigano.
Oh.
Okay. For weeks, people talked about Vigano. But you know what? I can't see Vigano or anything about Vigano while I'm in the Adoration Chapel. I can't see or hear or even think about Vigano when I'm in Mass. When I'm in Mass, I'm in literal heaven on earth, full on presence of God.
Yeah.
And nothing else matters. It's all perfect.
That's very true. There's also,
I have noticed when I walk out of Mass, I have this immediate urge to find something to complain about on the way home. Like, this guy didn't use his turn signal. Something stupid. It's because I just left the place of perfection. And then all of a sudden, let's find something to complain about. Because I literally cannot find anything to complain about in Mass or in the Adoration Chapel. Everything is perfect right there.
Yeah, it's true. And one thing you have to be very careful about, and I agree with the desire to, number one, root on the underdog, cheer for the underdog, and then kind of that morphs into wanting to be the underdog and playing that role of the underdog and rising above that. But there's a danger there, because I see in today's society sometimes we kind of equate underdog with victim, and so as opposed to being the underdog, we see ourselves sometimes as a victim of and that's where you run into problems, because when you feel like, how many people today they want to be, they say, oh, I'm oppressed because I fall into this category, that category, the other category, or because I do this, that, or the other thing. And then it's this, you play the role of the victim, and you want the world to change for you. You want things to change around for you to kind of turn things positive for you. And sometimes, you know what, sometimes we're not really the underdog. Sometimes we're not really a victim. Sometimes we just put ourselves in that role because it's great to have people to kind of turn their attention towards us, or to feel sorry for us, or to do things for us. And so I do see that happen sometimes, where we put ourselves in that role of underdog or victim simply because we like the attention that it comes along with it. And
it's
that's
self-sabotage when we do that. We sabotage ourselves.
Exactly. Because, like, you mentioned, like, Christ was an underdog, but he was the underdog because he actually was the underdog. He didn't put himself in that position. He didn't do things to bring that sort of attention to him.
Well, I mean, he did put himself there.
Okay, he did put himself there, but he was pursuing the good.
He didn't set off to make himself the victim. He knew that he would probably be made into a victim, but he still had to go and do the thing.
Exactly. But I mean, that's what I'm saying. But sometimes today we will.
But right now, people make the choice. I have to do something, so I will become a victim.
Exactly. And that's a whole different thing.
He did it to save everyone. Other people are doing it not for and I don't mean everybody, but
no.
Yes, I am generalizing. And if you have a complaint, I will drop the email address where you can complain about this later. Exactly. But some people are doing it just because they want to feel like the victim. Christ was doing it to save us from ourselves.
Yeah.
But so many other people say, I need to find a way to make myself a victim.
Exactly. And
whether it's real or not, like, I do the same thing. I need to make myself a victim. I need to wake up tomorrow with my entire body screaming and hurting because I decided, you know what? I'm going to go dig out that entire plot with a shovel.
Mm-hmm.
My hands are all busted and blistered and bleeding and everything. Why? Because I didn't walk to the other side of my fence and get in the Bobcat.
Mm.
And it's the same thing with people putting themselves in whatever categories, real or imagined, and they intentionally do something just so they can feel like a victim, because sometimes it feels good. It feels good to feel like a victim sometimes.
Well, but you get attention
to want to stay there.
Yeah. No, when you are the victim, you get attention, you get sympathy, you get empathy, you get there's something, you get a bit of a rush out of it, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
There's some joy that comes out of being a victim, as crazy as that sounds. But if you are unintentionally a victim, that's one thing. If you're intentionally placing yourself in the position of being a victim, that's a whole different ball of wax and something that should be avoided. But I think that sometimes something that we all do at certain points in our lives, because it's great to have everyone come and pat you on the back and say, what can I do to help you out, brother? It feels good.
I wonder if that's why you hear all these same stories from about every CEO. Well, I was building my company and had to file bankruptcy, and me and my wife were eating ramen. They like to revel in that struggle.
Yeah.
But what's funny is nobody's ever jealous about the struggle. They're always jealous about the end result, right?
Yeah. But I think they don't want it to appear that I went through so much to get to where I am. And there are tons of times when that happens. But you know what? Sometimes a success story doesn't have very many bumps and valleys along the way. Sometimes the success comes a little easier than other times. And so you don't have to, so why there you go. There's somebody looking backwards and trying to find the places where I was a victim. It's kind of like, it just pops into my head right now when Kamala Harris in her commercials. She wants to appeal to the common man, the person who's struggling on a daily basis. Now, I don't know how many millions of dollars she's worth now. I'm sure she's worth quite a bit, but she has this TV commercial where she puts in it where I'm just like you. When I was in high school and college, I worked at McDonald's for minimum wage. She has to show that she was a victim, that she struggled, that it was hard for her. Well, I mean, it may have been, it may not have been. I don't know. But why do you need to put that out there? Why do you? Because you're looking for that sympathy vote. That hey, you poor thing. Here, let me vote for you in November because you worked at McDonald's 40 years ago. It's just we like to be put in that position sometimes of being the person who was held back, kept down. And it's just like when you're telling us stories about the CEO. He doesn't talk about, hey, look at me, I'm on the top of my game. I'm worth X millions of dollars. My company's doing great. He's like, it was a struggle the whole way. I went through this and I went through that and everything. And sometimes, we take those struggles and we turn them into something positive. Like
I was selling mattresses on the side of the freeway in the Arizona heat kind of thing.
I was selling apples during the Depression, but but it led to something better. But see, I think that, but people want to not put in the effort to rise above the struggles. They want to just have people focus on the struggles.
Some people,
yes, obviously those are the people who are not going to get above that. If it's just look at me and look how much I've struggled and look how difficult things have been for me. And a lot of times it's legitimate, but what are you doing then to rise above those struggles? What are you doing to get past these difficult times? Because that's really what you should be judged on, not the fact that you had these struggles, but how you responded to those struggles. And some people don't think about that part. They don't want to put in the work of rising above. They want to say, look, I've gone through these struggles. I've gone through these difficult times. So now all of you need to make me feel better about this and make my life better. Well, you have to play a role in that. You can rise above those things, but you cannot sit back. You have to put in the work to rise above all the lousy stuff that's happened in your life.
Well, see, I wonder how much of that is attached to the burden of performance. So
a lot.
I mean, think about it. If you started off as a janitor, I don't know. I watched that movie the other day. I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's about that guy who invented the flaming hot Cheeto, the Hispanic guy. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
And he went from being like the janitor to, big dog at the company, made billions of dollars for Cheeto.
Yeah.
Or Frito-Lay, the parent company. But once you get to the top, victory itself is a stale finale.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you get to the top, you got to stay there. You have to perform at a higher level than before. So I wonder how much it's tied to when people, well, I won't try to do any better because that means I'll have to work even harder to stay better. It's like, okay, people will refrain from committing to saying a novena. I don't know if I can go all 9 days. I don't know if I can do this all 9 days. And I don't want to start it because I don't want to go, crap, I missed days 3 and 4, remembered on 5, was too busy on 6, did 7 and 8, and I was done and completely wrote off doing day 9. Right? It's the same concept as, people complain about, I don't do this I don't pray the rosary anymore because I've never been able to pray a perfect rosary because I keep getting distracted mid-decade. And then I start all over and it takes me 3 hours to get it done. And by the time I'm done, I'm exhausted and I had to stop because other things needed to be done. It's that fear and that burden of performance, right? But the thing is, You don't have to always be perfect.
Yeah.
I don't think I know a single person that's ever prayed a perfect rosary.
No.
I don't know a priest that's ever prayed a perfect rosary. I think every priest that I've ever asked about this has always said, oh, yeah, I get about 3 Hail Marys in, and I'm like, what am I going to eat today? Who do I have to visit today? Who's going to do the second mass of the day? Whatever it is, so another thought pops into their head, but they just continue on. They pick up where they left off and continue on. It's like, people don't want to commit to wearing a brown scapular. Well, I don't want to commit to that because what if I screw it up? Well, then you don't just take it off and say, I'm not doing it anymore. You just start over the next day.
Yeah.
And and if you screw up that day again, you start over the next day.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it's just fear of performance. Well, if I'm going to be a nun or I'm going to be a priest. Well, what if I screw up on the 3rd day? Start over on the 4th.
Yeah. But see, and then you look at your original example there about praying the rosary, and regardless of your mind wandering while you're trying to pray the rosary, other thoughts come into your head and things like that. If you stop, what's the final result? You're now no longer praying the rosary. So that to me is the key. What do you think God would prefer, that you pray an imperfect rosary, or you could stop praying it altogether? I think he would go with the former rather than the latter, because he's not looking at our successes. He's not keeping a scorecard. I tell people all the time, he wants to see you trying. He wants to see the attempt you're making to pray the perfect rosary, to do, to make sure that you're in church every Sunday, to all these things that we do in our lives. He's not sitting there expecting you to do all these things perfectly. He's expecting you to try, to put in the attempt, because obviously none of us are perfect. We talk about that all the time here. But if you just give up, that's pretty disappointing to God.
Look at it this way. You were talking about football earlier, right? We've all seen games, whether it's football, basketball, soccer, hockey, whatever, where it's a straight up blowout. It's the end of the second half, and it's like 58-0. Zero chance the other team is ever going to come back. Imagine how disappointed you would be if you bought a ticket to that game and they just went, well, we're too far behind to ever come back, so we're just going to call it here.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah. And how many times have you...
It's the 4th quarter. We've got 5 minutes left to play, and there's no way we can come back from a 20-point deficit in these 5 minutes. So we're just going to go ahead and call the game now, be done.
Yeah.
How disappointed and pissed off you would be. That's what it's like when we stop things halfway through because it's not perfect enough.
Exactly. And how many times have you seen that, where a team that is completely overmatched, they have no business even being, it's Ohio State and Notre Dame against some FCS team that was 0-12 last year, and only has 46 guys on the roster, and they're losing 56-0, 78-0, but they play till the final whistle. And then you'll see the coach afterwards. He's not upset. He's not angry. He says, you know what I loved? These guys had heart. They 78-0, and to the final whistle, they kept playing. They kept pushing. They kept trying. And I think in a sense, God's like that big football coach in the sky. He's saying, look at these guys. Some of these people that I've got down there, they've been down. They've been pushed down. They've been hurt. All these things have happened to them. But look at them. Look at these guys here. They keep trying. They keep getting
we had to carry every single one of them off the field because they completely obliterated themselves.
Exactly.
And they still didn't score a single point.
And it didn't matter.
They fought like hell. And that's what God wants.
That's all he wants. He wants to see you fight. And I mean, it's kind of like, goes back to the parable of the talents, and the guy who only had the one talent, he took it in the field and buried it. And he's so proud of himself. Look, you gave me one thing and I still have that one thing. Look at me. Aren't I great? It's the same thing. No, you were supposed to do something with it. You were supposed to take it. So those guys on a football field who were getting pummeled 78-0, if they had just said, "Hey, aren't you proud of us? We were getting killed, so we just stopped." No, nobody's going to be proud of that. What's there to be proud of? You keep fighting. You keep fighting regardless. You don't focus on, well, what's the best that's going to happen if I keep going? No, you do what you're supposed to do. You keep going until the end. And that's the same thing with
now that ties into what I was talking about with we self-sabotage, so we have something else to fight for. So it kind of comes, we're supposed to just keep fighting. But I think the wrong answer is sabotage what we've already won.
Yes. You don't give up a hill.
We need to find a bigger fight.
Yeah. You don't give up a hill so
don't give up a mountain to fight for a hill.
Yeah, or you don't give up the hill that you've taken so that you can take it again. You don't lose additional lives fighting for the same hill twice just because, well, we were doing too well. We got to step it back a notch.
Right.
No,
I like how that whole thing just came full circle.
Yeah.
We like the fight. We like the fight. We like showing that we've got heart, that we're struggling against a bigger and greater and more powerful force.
But you fight.
But it doesn't mean
time to fight. You fight.
But it doesn't mean we have to invent a bigger force or manufacture a bigger force. There are bigger forces out there.
Yeah. It's I've told the story before about Saint Dominic in France with the Albigensians, and and him saying, "Oh, I'm ready, Lord. I'm going to go to the front lines here, and I'm going to be taking up arms, and I'm going to be." And the Blessed Mother said, "No, you stay in the back and you pray. You pray the Rosary." He said, "No, I got to be in the fight. I got to be right there for you." And she's like, "No, what I need you to do is be in the back and pray the Rosary and lead people in the Rosary." And thankfully, that's what he eventually did, and the battle was won. But that's the thing. We want to be in the fight. We want to be in the thick of it. We want to, even if it's a self-created battle, we want to be in the middle of it because that's where the glory is, right? Or we think the glory is there. No, St. Dominic didn't get any glory on the battlefield, but he sure got a lot of glory now that he's in heaven. And that's the way we have to think. It's not about today. What little self-created battle am I going to win today? So everyone pats me on the back. No, am I winning the big battle so that I spend an eternity with Christ? And that's what we need to do. You do what you're called to do. Like I've told the story about working in the food bank at the church in the basement when I wanted to be up there and giving talks and running Bible studies and things like that. No, what they needed me to do was 8:00 at night on Wednesdays be in a basement sorting bananas. So that's what I did. That's what was needed,
Yeah. No, it makes sense. Like I said, I like how the whole thing came full circle. The wrong answer is breaking what you've already fixed.
Right. And we do it all the time.
We do it all the time, even on this show.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. We got some time left for the end of the show. What do you got for us today, brother?
Oh, I've always got something up my sleeve here. This is great. This, man, I love these things. These are, this is great. These look like just your typical standard prayer cards. You've got the Blessed Mother on there, I see. You've got, this one is Christ crucified. Here's the Good Shepherd. And they look like your standard prayer cards, right? But these are actually Vietnam era. And these are prayer cards that are from Paris Island down there in South Carolina.
Yeah, I know where that's at.
You know where that's at.
The home of the sand flea.
The home of the sand flea. And the beauty of these is that on the back is written on each one of these. These are prayer cards that would be provided to Catholic servicemen who are there for training, and it would be provided by the chaplain, the Catholic chaplain. And it says, "Dear Mom and Dad, I received communion today and remembered you in my prayers. Love, Bill." And the servicemen would fill this out, sign it, and then the chaplain would make sure that these got sent to his parents. And I think that's so cool. I received communion today, and I remembered you in my prayers. And what a great thing! I mean, to receive that in the mail from your son, I think had to be a beautiful thing. I know he's all right. I know he's still going strong. He's working hard, and I know he hasn't let go of his faith while he's down there. And it's such a beautiful little thing. I mean, you probably wouldn't even be able to read it on there, but that's what it says on there. It says, "I received Holy Communion today, and I remembered you in my prayers." And if your son is at Parris Island in South Carolina, I think you're very concerned about his well-being, his physical well-being, and also his spiritual well-being. So receiving that in the mail back there about 45, 50 years ago, I think probably was very important to Bill's parents. So another one of those neat little items I have that, tie in our Catholicism and our faith with fighting and battling for our country and for our loved ones.
I really like that. That's cool, man.
Those are cool, aren't they? Man, I tell you, it's just, God is a part of every single aspect of our life. Every day, every second, every thought we have, everything we do. And even when you're down there in Parris Island training to be shipped off to God knows where, God's got to be a part of your life. And if he is, the outcome is going to be a positive one. Even if you don't make it home, hopefully you're going to make it to heaven. So that's what it's all about. Keep God in your life.
I can imagine how awesome it would be to get one of those in the mail. And because, my son's in the military.
Yeah.
So granted, we have iPhones, so we can FaceTime.
A little different now, yeah.
Call, text, whatever. And then sometimes I'll go a month or two without hearing from him. And I don't know if he's deployed.
Yeah.
Because he's with the 7 Special Forces group. When they deploy, they're not gone on like an 11-month TDY like a lot of other places. I mean, he might go down to Venezuela. He might go down to Belize. He might go to Colombia.
Yeah.
And while most of his job keeps him well away from danger, there's still a risk, right?
Sure.
And so when I don't hear from him, it's like, I don't like it. But then he'll like a post on Facebook. He's good.
He's okay.
He's good. Yeah. Or he'll text his mom, or he'll text me, or he'll text his brothers. And it's just that one little thing. So yeah, I totally get how that would be. I'm like, I never knew that was a thing, the way they would do those, because they did do that when I was in the military, but maybe they did, but not every chaplain did. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I didn't have a whole lot of interactions with chaplains either, because I wasn't Catholic or religious at all, really. Yeah. No, that's really cool. I like that.
Yeah, that's a good one. Another one is I think there's always a special place in my heart for the items that I have that are military related. Even though the only connection I have is my father serving in the Navy in World War II, and actually several uncles and things like that. But just it's that whole thing. I always say God, family, country, right? And that's what men are supposed to do. You serve all three, with God certainly being top of that list, always. But so there is an interaction, like you say. God's got to be a part of everything you do, every breath you take. He's got to be a part of that. And it's like when you're deciding what to do during the day, you're deciding to be lazy or to get some work done or something like that. Okay, well, what would God expect of you? I don't think he wants things. You should be sitting around watching Dr. Phil all day. You got to get up and you got to get out there and you got to accomplish something, right? So that's what it's all about.
It is. But all right, this is the end of today's show. We've made it all the way to the end.
Yes.
And I don't think we really blundered anything. So to make sure we get out of here without doing it, I'm going to go ahead and say thank you all for watching, listening, liking, sharing, subscribing, and forcing pro-Catholic propaganda into the faces of all the anti-Catholics out there. So thank you very much, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Yep. God bless everybody.